voice in praise and song. Sing, be happy today. We fail to see the rainbow like the cancer sky. When it seems the forces of earth crowding past us by, there are things we know are worth more than silver and gold. If we hope and trust and be safe, this world has unfold. Sing and be happy, press on to the goal. Trust Him who needs to be will keep your soul at home. Be faithful, look to Him and pray. Lift your voice and praise and song. Sing, be happy today.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this wonderful weather. Thank you for allowing us all to come together here tonight to study a portion of your word. These people, the ones that are sick, that be mentally sick, traveling down these highways, be sure to watch over them and make sure they're safe. I know we ask you for so many things, but you give us whatever we need. You know what we need for our needs, our best. People will be the ones that shut in, soldiers fighting overseas, and the little children, be with the leaders of this country so they may look to you for guidance and help lead us throughout the year. For it's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
If you would like to mark the song of invitation, that would be number 714. Again, the song of invitation this evening will be number 714. The song for the lesson this evening will be number 595. Again, the song for the lesson this evening will be number 595. I'll be leading verses 1 and 4.
Stand up for Jesus, ye soldiers of the cross. Lift high His royal banner, it must not suffer loss. From victory unto victory, His army shall be, till every foe is vanquished, and Christ is Lord indeed. Stand up for Jesus, the strife will not be long. This day the Lord of battle, the victor's song. To Him that overcometh, a crown of life shall be. He with the King of glory shall reign eternally.
Well, didn't know this until tonight, but Delford is back in the hospital. Went in Monday night, and so keep him in your prayers. Of course, I'm sure everybody's heard by now, but Roger Jones passed away. Visitation will be tomorrow. It's 1 to 8, right? I'm telling off the top of my head, and then the funeral will be Friday at 11. So please, if you can go by and support Robbie and the family, that would be greatly appreciated. Anybody else that you know of that needs to be mentioned? Yes, ma'am. All right. Two things. Linda Smith was taken by ambulance and to the hospital. They think she has COVID. She's having a great difficulty breathing. So remember her. And then Cody has got a fellow soldier in with him, and he was an atheist or professed to be an atheist, and they've been studying the Bible together, and he's now a believer. So Cody asked that we remember him in our prayers. That's wonderful. Anything else? Anybody else? Okay. Anybody else? Well, all right. Um, it was announced before the song after the lesson. I don't really do a lesson on Wednesday night. I've tried. You can give me an hour and I can talk. You give me 3 or 4 minutes and I can't come up with much. I never have been able to. It's not my strong suit for sure. But on Wednesday night, it's kind of interesting thing. Where I grew up, we came back in. We went to class and then we came in at the end of it. And I'm not saying that's right, but it seems like that was something that kind of helped, people that they were thinking about becoming a Christian. They had the time during the Bible class, or maybe it was something during Bible class. But for the last, I don't know how many years, I've been at churches that do it first. I don't know which is the most effective. I'm not certainly not trying to change anything. Doesn't matter to me. But you think about, well, what's been going on with a person during the week? Maybe it was something that was said on Sunday. Maybe it was something that's happened during the week, and that's prompted people to think, to think about the important things in life and may need to make things right with God. I know certainly it's interesting to me in many parts of the world where we haven't forced American Christianity on churches. They don't have a song of invitation, and the reason they don't have one is evangelism takes place during the week. Edification of the church takes place when the church is gathered. That's that kind of strange, isn't it? But you can respond without a song of invitation. You realize that you don't have to have one, but it does give people a little bit of courage to be able, when everybody's standing up, to step out in that aisle, and that's a hard thing to do. I think about things that happens, during the week that get people thinking about it. I have a good friend that I grew up with, went to school, first grade to 12th grade. She was brought up in a good Christian home. Over the years, just got out of the habit of going to church. I think she had been going some, started back fairly recently. But anyway, she was in a car wreck, and a guy rear-ended her. And fortunately, she was in a big truck because it would have killed her if she wasn't, but it killed him. Well, guess what she did after waiting 61 years to do? She went and called the preacher, and she says, I can't take any more chances. I'd hate for something that drastic to have to happen to you to get you to do what you need to do, and that's come to Jesus. You need to do so. Please come as we stand and sing together.
We walk with the Lord in the light of His word. What glory He sheds on our way. What we do is through He abides with us still, and with all who will trust Him.
dismiss the classes. What are you doing with that? Yeah. Here's what Chris and I are talking about. He's got a nail that's been sticking him up here, and he's been trying to get it fixed, and it didn't get fixed. So Chris just brought his own hammer. He's gonna fix his seat. Now, if he gets bored and he starts hammering, I guess we'll give him about 10 licks with a hammer, and then make him quit. But anyway, Revelation 13. Al, does the water taste a little bit like your farm, or is it? Does the water taste a little bit like your farm? I figure right now we're drinking some of the dirt that's washed off from different farms. I mean, don't everybody in agreement that you taste mud from the Barren River Lake right now? Am I the only one that notices that? The lake turned over. Well, it turned over and it let some of Al's dirt get in the system. It's just not his, but I do know he owns land up the river. I don't know anybody else that does. I guess, an annual ritual, isn't it? Where in Allen County you get to drink mud or pond scum or something for what, 2 or 3 months? Then it clears up. Can't even go to Sonic and get a cup of water without it tasting like that. I guess it adds vitamins. Anyway, Revelation chapter 3. Hope everybody's having a pretty good week. Revelation 13. Sorry. Of course, we got all kinds of people out traveling. And again, I say that and pray that they have a safe trip, a good time. And have to be honest, always a little bit jealous of them for getting to go. But I do hope they have a good time and safe trip. Well, we were introduced last week to this beast that rises up out of the ocean, very powerful beast. We talked a little bit about how the people believed that Nero was going to be reincarnated and come back, and they thought that Domitian was the fulfillment of that belief. It's a strange thing that they would have believed that, but when you've got multiple religions to choose from, and you pick, you can bounce around between every of them. What's one more strange belief? Yeah, it's powerful, of course. By the way, the ethical standards of most of those religions were pretty small as well. But anyway, the people marveled at this great beast. Oh, they thought he was marvelous indeed. And they worshiped him, saying, "Who's like this beast?" Oh boy. It's. Please don't think I'm knocking the United States of America. I'm not. I love this country, and although we've always had our problems, we've always been willing to try to address our problems. I think that's one of the great things about it. But as much as we love this country, and I'm speaking for all of us, even though that may not be true of you, as much as we love this country, our patriotism should never get so fanatical that we forget that God is God, and He is greater than any nation. And nations come and go, but God remains. And I'm afraid sometimes people get so caught up in patriotism wherever they are, not just in the United States of America, that becomes their religion. Well, folks, I love America and I want it to do good, and I want to do what I can do to help make it good. But bottom line, the kingdom of God supersedes it by far. And unfortunately, some people kind of get the two mixed up as if they were one and the same. Nope, they're not one and the same. The kingdom of God is eternal. The United States of America is not. I don't know how long it'll last. I hope it lasts through my lifetime and yours as well. But it's still a kingdom that is subject to fall. But the Romans, they were so proud of themselves, so proud of their government, that they were willing to overlook all of the atrocities committed by the Roman Empire. They looked upon all the wars as not something tragic. They looked upon all these wars where they were conquered. Boy, look at us. We're so good. We're so strong. Nobody can withstand us. They looked upon the moral failings of the leaders and turned a blind eye to them. And folks, there's some of those Roman Caesars that they should have been in prison. I mean, they should have been in prison for all of their moral failings. Horrible people, some of them. But somehow or another, that person that epitomized or represented Rome became an object of worship. It seems hard to believe, but it is. I can't remember who wrote the book, but he goes through 12 Caesars in this book, and it's just like they're so perverted. Some of them are so perverted you hate to even read about them. It's kind of like, can't stand it. That's okay. They represented Rome, so we'll worship Rome, is what the people are saying. And then we find out in verse 7 of 13 that the second beast comes up. Well, actually, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let me jump on to verse 11. Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It has two horns like a lamb, spoke like a dragon. It looked religious, but it's the devil's behind it. I'm not sure the two horns, versus the Lamb of God that has the seven horns. I'm not so sure. Maybe it's just showing that it's weaker. Don't really know on that. But it exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose mortal wound was healed. That's that whole Nero Domitian thing. It performs great signs, even making fire come down from heaven to earth in front of people. And by the signs that it is allowed to work in with the presence of the beast, it deceives those who dwell on earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet live. Now, I'm going fast through this, and I get carried away sometimes and do that, too much so. But doesn't it kind of amaze you that it does say that they committed, this beast was able to commit miracles? Do you think they're genuine miracles? Wouldn't have to be. I think that one of the things that is true of a lot of religions over the years is they're able to fool the followers into believing that miracles are worked. So I don't know if they are. It wouldn't surprise me that they were genuine miracles, because Satan does in fact have a lot of power. So I can go either way, and that doesn't change anything, does it? Doesn't change anything about our understanding of this at all. Whether they're fake or whether they're real, he has convinced people that this is a genuine religion, worthy of their attention. Now, let's go back to the start just for a little bit. How many churches was this letter addressed to? Don't worry, I'm not going all the way through it. How many churches was this addressed to? 7. Why just 7? And why the area that they were located in? Well, I think the 7 is representative. They represent all the churches. Because, you know, you got some that's all good, you got some that seems to be all bad, you got some that are good and bad, you got a good mix there of different types of churches. Now, I've told you it's silly to me that some people see it as 7 church ages. That's bizarre. Like the first church, the church of Ephesus, is the second and third century. The second period of time, whatever church that is, represents 300 to 500. That's silly to me. I don't think that's what it means at all. In fact, I did say this, but I don't mind saying it again. Everybody that takes that approach always puts us in the 7th church period, which is the church that makes Jesus sick and said, I'll spew you out of my mouth. So whatever time frame you're talking about, they always make it fit the church of their time. Nobody has ever done that and come away saying, hey, look, we're in that church age where Jesus doesn't find a single fault. Isn't that kind of ironic? It says a little bit about our own analysis of the church throughout history. But anyway. It's looks like a lamb, but it sounds like a dragon. It looks like a religion, but the devil is behind it. Well, it's a symbolic language. I don't think they would have known any more than you and I know how a dragon sounds. Well, I'd do it, but I'm afraid I'd hurt my voice because no, I don't know. But that's we don't know how a dragon sounds. But just not to be taken literally. We have already been introduced to the dragon, right? In chapter 12, he's this powerful beast that's in heaven that tries to destroy the Christ child, that takes his tail and swipes a third of the earth. I don't want to get off on this, but I've always been mystified by the whole dragons. All these, knights of England and Germany going off and fighting dragons. I don't reckon they've ever found a skeleton of a dragon. Do you? They're just a mythical figure that has come into our vocabulary and has been for apparently thousands of years. You got me on that. You got me on that. And I don't know about that. We might have to talk later. Anyway, possibly, yeah. That's I think most Christians think that the Leviathan and what's the other one? Behemoth. That's possibly a dinosaur. And that may be where all this came from, but there wasn't any dinosaurs running around England when King Arthur was, off to slay a dragon. I don't know what they were doing. Boys not out, just using an excuse. I don't know. But anyway, let me go back to this thought that I was working on because it's important, and it's a little bit of repetition, but a little bit's okay. Where was emperor worship and the enforcement of it happening more than any other place? In Asia Minor, where these churches were located. And I go back to this, as you well know. There was always tension between the Senate and the Caesar. Because technically the senators were supposed to be the main force. But it kind of personality cult. Oftentimes the Caesars would gain more control and get their way over the Senate. They had the backing of the people. You would think the senators would, but not to the degree that the Caesars often did. I tell you that to say that Caesar worship it occurred to a degree, but it never did occur in Rome like it did out away from Rome. For one thing, the senators would have discouraged it and not been behind it as a general rule. So these churches that he mentions, you can look at them on a map. In their area is where this is such a major issue. So that's a little bit helpful. And that's all the backtracking that I plan on doing, at least at this moment. So it performs great signs, even I already did that. Verse 15, and it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak and might cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. I don't know how to exactly take that. I don't think that there's a statue that's actually given the power to talk. I think it's symbolic. Also, it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand of the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark that is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And I gave you that little handout last week, and I'll not go over it again. If you need another copy, I'll try to remember to make one for Sunday. It's an excellent little section dealing with this 666, and it does mention something that I forgot. I went back and read it again this afternoon. He says some great things, but I didn't read my commentary. He says some great things there about how many hours have been spent by men trying to figure out this, and basically wasted time. I do think it is talking about Nero and the person of Domitian, but there's something else that comes into play here. What is the number of evil? 6. That's not to us. It's to the people in apocalyptic style language. 7 is perfection. 6 falls short of it. Now, again, I think I've actually said this. How do you emphasize something in Jewish writing? Say it 3 times. So it's remarkable to me that it numerically works out to be Nero Caesar, and is also a sign of this is really evil. So, for what that's worth.
The image that was on there, you said you didn't think it was a literal statue. You don't reckon that represents the...
Well, I think it was a statue. I don't think that it literally had to speak.
But do you suppose that could carry forward to the people that were empowered to actually enforce those movements of Caesar worship?
Yeah, they spoke. What Chris said just clicked and made perfect sense. It's not meaning that the statue really spoke, but it was the people that was behind it, enforcing it, speaking for him, for the worship. I think that makes good sense. Does that make sense, what I said? I may have not said it as clearly as I want to. The statue itself is not talking. It's the people who's backing it up that's talking and giving power to that statue. It's always amazed me in the history of the world how people get so caught up in an image. It just is amazing to me. St. Peter, the statue of St. Peter in Rome. People have rubbed his toe and kissed it so much they've had to replace his big toe. Think about that. What? Okay, we agree Peter's great. We don't believe he was the first pope. If he was, he didn't tell us about it, and he didn't know it. He also was married, so this whole nonsense business of them requiring a priest not to be married it's a bunch of nonsense. And I'm sure you've seen on the news how in limiting their religious authorities to being unmarried men, how that's worked out for them with all the sex, what am I trying to say? The perversion and the taking advantage of children. What was the number they gave in France? When it was in the news. It was a crazy number. How much? Nobody? I don't either. I read headlines. I do. I don't watch the news. I hadn't watched it in a long, long time. But I read the headlines, and if they make sense, I look at the story. I didn't even look at this story because it's like, well, once again, yeah, hold to that stupid man-made rule. By the way, uh, churches that have preachers that are married still have some problems, just not to the extent that the Catholic Church has had for centuries and centuries and centuries. And it's an abuse that should never, ever take place. Now, how did I get off on that? Peter's toe. That's right. Kissing. Love Apostle Peter. I think most of us can relate to him. He's always sticking his foot in his mouth. Maybe y'all can't relate to him, but I can. This whole business about the images of Mary having miraculous powers, that's as pagan can be. That's no different than going to a Hindu temple and expecting the Hindu God to do something for you. It's no difference. It's not Christianity. Yeah. I think I told y'all this. I don't know who told me this. Maybe somebody here. I probably shouldn't tell it, but I'm going to tell it. This guy was unloading at a convenience store. Joey, for some reason, I made this. Was it you that told me that? No. Well, I don't know if it was the same store. Well, not Buddha. Yeah, probably Ganesh, the boy with the elephant head. That makes a lot of sense. Anyway, this guy, a delivery guy, was delivering to this convenience store, and he had a big order. And he tries to get the guy to, okay it and tell him where he wants it. The guy's too busy, waves him off. He's talking on the phone, waves him off, very rude about it. So the guy waits a little bit, sets some stuff down, ends up with a big pallet right there as you come in the front door. Well, the guy finally gets off the phone and he starts in fussing at the delivery guy. Says, "You can't leave that here." He said, "I asked you where you wanted it. You wouldn't tell me. I'm leaving it here, and you can get that six-headed dude to help you move it. Six-handed dude to help you move it if you want it moved." That's probably very insulting, but it's the truth. Let a statue help you. I heard a preacher down at West Eastland in Gallatin describing this ceremony in some place in Thailand where they're pulling this massive statue of Buddha around town, and Buddha topples over. And it talked about how many people it took to set Buddha up. He said, "I don't know about you, but I want a God that picks me up when I fall down, not one I have to pick up when he falls down." And that's the truth. But people get all wrapped up in these statues and these images and all of that stuff. Do y'all know the iconographic feud that took place between the Orthodox and the Catholic Church? Do y'all know about that? Iconoclastic battle. The Orthodox Church were using, they still do, they use pictures. They traditionally don't have statues. They just use pictures. And the Catholic Church says that's idolatry. And that's one of the reasons they ended up splitting. And now the Catholic Church uses pictures and statues. It's amazing. It's amazing, folks. I told you I had a friend. I really liked the guy from Saudi Arabia. Took my class, and we got to be pretty good friends. Anyway, uh, he came to Alberton one Wednesday night. Um, anyway, he came in, and of course it's like this, and he said, where's the statue of Jesus?" And I said, "Man, we're as scared of idolatry as you are. You're not going to find that." I said, "What you need to understand is not everything you think is Christian looks alike with every other group that calls themselves Christians, because all he knew was Catholicism. In fact, that's to the point where many Muslims believe that they think Christianity teaches the Trinity is God the Father, God the Son, and Mary. Well, you can certainly see how they get that, can't you? I mean, they spend way more time praying to Mary than they do anybody else. You do the rosary. Hail Mary, full of grace. I mean, I don't know how that happened. But I'm off on the subject. I guess when you look at the history of the world, people are drawn to images. And they end up giving credit to the image rather than just what it represents oftentimes. I don't know who this was. I read some time ago that this guy gets in a car in China, and the taxi driver has a big picture of Mao Zedong hanging from his mirror. And the guy said, "If you don't mind me asking, why do you have that here?" He said, "Oh, that's my good luck charm." So a guy that was against our religion has become a good luck charm. We're going to make religion some way, form, or fashion. It's always going to be, for a lot of people, it's going to be what suits them. And they're just their skeletons piled up. Is that what? Oh man, they got some beautiful buildings. Yeah, you didn't kiss it. Yeah, I didn't actually see that, but they have some beautiful buildings. They do. Uh, yeah. I've certainly seen pictures of them, and that's common practice. I don't know why we don't just do that here. Put part of our basement downstairs, you know, stack the skeletons up here. You know, this is to me this is the height of foolishness. Did you know every Catholic church has to have a holy relic in it?
I was going to mention that, but then I thought I don't want to veer us off any farther.
Well, I am so.
But no, I was actually just looking at that a couple days ago. Apparently, there were a lot, hundreds of Catholic churches across Europe who they were kind of in trouble with the Vatican because they didn't have any relics, and it's because people steal them over the years. You know, take a foot bone here, and you know.
Yeah, there's churches that claim to have pieces of the skeleton of John the Baptist. You got to have a bone from somebody.
So they, you know, they've had their relics stolen over the years, and apparently what they did, they were somebody was excavating a little town somewhere around Rome. But they came across a huge catacomb full of, you know, bones, just extra bones laying around. So the Vatican gets this idea. They said, "Hey, wait a minute. We're going to do a little blessing, say these are saints, and they're going to ship these relics, these bones off all these churches, so that they'll have their relic. And I thought, wow, some guy,
Got rid of the bones.
yeah, got rid of the bones.
There you go.
Nobody got offended.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. And now, some little church off in the middle of, nowhere is worshiping an ankle bone of, Bob,
Yeah. Old Bob. Bob from Rome.
Saint Bob.
Well, now having said all that, we talked about last week, some people have made the number 666 represent the Catholic Church. I don't think that's it at all. It's not it at all. I can understand where they came from at the time this practice started being making it the Catholic Church. It was Martin Luther. The Catholic Church was extremely corrupt at that time. I can see why they would have thought that, but that's not it. Anyway, so chapter 14, then I looked and behold, on Mount Zion stood the Lamb. There's that good news. And with him 144,000 who had his name and his father's name. Now notice the contrast. You can either go down there and worship at the little altar for the Roman Caesar and get a mark on you, or you can have the mark of Jesus on you. You got one or two choices here. Now, is it really written on their forehead? No, I don't think so. It's symbolic. And I heard a voice from heaven like the roar of many waters. I don't know what a dragon sounds like, but I know what the roar of many waters sounds like. And like the sound of loud thunder. And the voice I heard was like the sound of harpists playing on their harps, and they were singing a new song before the throne and before the four living creatures and before the elders. No one could learn that song except the 144,000 who had been redeemed from the earth. Now watch this. This is, it's going to sound like I'm throwing you a curveball, but think about it. I wish you'd take notes and go home and, read them, think about them, or maybe tear them up, throw them away. It's whatever. But think about it, because this is we're literalists, folks. We're literalists. We are not good at using symbolic language. We're just not. It's just not in our DNA. People, we don't have to worry about ever going to be people like a practice that developed in the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church of saying everything in the Scripture is an allegory. And I'll give you a quick example. And using an allegorical method to interpret Scripture. Does anybody remember how many fish they caught when Jesus appears to them after his resurrection? 153. See, that's fishermen, Dewey. Fishermen keep up with how many fish they caught. 153. And King James says fishes. So if you say fishes, that's fine with me. Now, what did people do with that? Well, that's just a story to illustrate that the gospel was to go into all 153 nations. There's a problem there. There's more than 153 nations. And the number changes, right? Doesn't the number change? Yeah. One time Soviet Union didn't exist. There was a bunch of countries, and then boom, they all become one. But that's allegorical. That's not. So anyway, we don't have to worry about becoming that. It's just not our way of thinking, and I'm glad it's not. But having said that, we got it when we approach the book of Revelation. We got to understand. Don't think literal. Think figurative. What's it trying to say? And it says here that in verse 4, it is these who have not defiled themselves with women, for they are virgins. It is these who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These have been redeemed for mankind as first fruits for God and the Lamb, and in their mouth no lie was found, for they are blameless. Now I do think that this means that they are physically virgins. I think it means they have not committed spiritual fornication by worshiping the beast. Does the Bible reference people as committing adultery when they're cheating on God? repeatedly. So I think that's the deal here. I don't think you're supposed to take. Is there any place in the Bible? Is there any place in the Bible that indicates that a single person is more holy than a married couple that loves God? There are none. There are none. So we're not talking about a special group of people that never married, that never engaged in sex. We're talking about a group of people that did not bow down and worship the false image. And in their mouth there was no lie. Okay, I hate to say this. David said, I said in my haste, all men are liars. I've said this for a long time. He could have slowed down and thought about it, and it'd still be true. Now, I've always, if I have a virtue that I have tried to practice, I try to practice them all, but I have always tried to be as honest as I can be. But you know what? I know I've lied. I don't ever want to. I mean, I can remember as far back as I can remember. And that's just something that's always been important to me, is to tell the truth. But I know that I've lied. So is there anybody that is without a lie? Literally anybody without a lie besides Jesus? No. And no deceit. No, and some versions say guile, right? Yeah. Well, that's true, but I have a feeling he didn't live out his whole life like that. And I think that's true of a lot of us here, if not everybody here. We don't want to be dishonest people. We want to be honest people. But truth is, if we didn't just tell an outright lie, we've shaded the truth to be misleading. I hate when people are clever enough to do that. I hate it, because they can tell you something and they're telling you enough truth there but they're shaping it so that it's leading you down the wrong path. I hate that. Yeah, the lie of omission. That's right. But anyway, what lie? There's no lie. They never once walked up that image and says, I praise you, Caesar, Domitian, you are God. I think that's all it's saying here. So they hadn't committed spiritual adultery. They never uttered this falsehood of saying this horrible Caesar was God, or worshiping, as they say. And I'm sure the word doesn't mean the exact same, but in their writings they're constantly glorifying the genius of Rome, the genius of Rome. And as much as I've looked at it, I've never looked to see exactly how they were using that. Shame on me. Or if I did, I don't remember looking at it. And you have to, and you know this, you have to look at how a word is being used by the user, not looking at a word in one culture and interpreting by how we use it in another culture. You understand that. I'm sorry. I'm sitting up here laughing because I got a Keith Warren story on this, but I won't tell it. Nah, not going to tell it. He said, then I saw another angel flying directly overhead with an eternal gospel to proclaim to those who dwell on earth, to every nation and tribe and language and people. And he said with a loud voice, fear God and give him glory. Remember what have I said about this book? To me, there's two or three ways of looking at it. the central theme is worship the right God. And that includes his son, the Lamb, right? That's a central theme. Another one is to read it as a book of worship with a strong emphasis on who are you to worship, and that's God. And then the third way that I've tried to emphasize this, and you'll see this coming up, is read it as a new Exodus, God delivering his people. And I think if you just approach it from those three perspectives, you get so much out of it. Even if you don't have to get all the language, you don't have to. I don't think I'm satisfied. I hope I'm never satisfied until I get to heaven with my saying I have a complete understanding of Revelation. I don't believe I do, but I got a pretty good idea what's going on. And it didn't come easy, by the way. But anyway, and then when it starts clicking, all of a sudden it seems easy. He said with a loud voice, "Fear God, give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea, and the springs of water." Another angel, a second, followed, saying, "Fallen, fallen, Babylon is great. She who made all nations drink of the passion of her sexual immorality." I love that phrase, Babylon, fallen, fallen is Babylon. I'm sure I borrowed it. I don't honestly know where. I haven't been able to go back and find it. I refer this to a speaking of the destruction of Babylon. We'll talk about how that's Rome in a little bit, a couple of weeks. I speak of this as a prophetic past tense. What does that mean? You talk about it like it's already happened. They're singing "Fallen, fallen is Babylon." I think it's talking about the Roman Empire. Has it fallen when he's singing this? No, but if God says it's fallen, you can count it as fallen. And that's I just love that phrase. A reminder in verse 9, and this is where we'll quit. I'm thinking about, I want to jump ahead just a little bit and show you that I haven't lost my mind on all this stuff. I told you if you wait long enough, he will explain himself a little bit. If you'll go ahead and read chapter 17, you're going to get an explanation of who Babylon is, how it all fits, how some of the symbols take place. If you'll just read that, you'll see that I am making more sense than what it seems like. I promise you that. I hope I'm making some sense. Okay, another angel back in 14:9, another angel, third, followed them, saying with a loud voice, "If anyone worships the beast in its image and receives a mark on his forehead or on his hand, he also will drink of the wine of God's wrath, poured full strength into the cup of his anger. And he will be tormented with fire and sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb." Now, folks, that's plain, isn't it? That's plain. You better be sure who you worship, because who you worship has a lot to do with where you spend eternity. And choose the Lamb. Let's stop there. The bell hadn't rung. Let's stop there. I got to play today. I didn't have to teach school. We're on fall break. Got out and played in the woods and sweated quite a bit. Trying to clear up some brush, and that always messes my voice up. And then this mud will help.